Hello, and welcome to Brand Clarity by Visions to Images, where we focus on strategy and business development for entrepreneurs at all different levels through branding and digital marketing techniques. Susie Liberatore is the founder and art director of Visions to Images Creative Services, LLC. For the last decade, she has personally been instrumental in bridging gaps between the global digital market and neighborhood locations for some of the biggest brands around. Growth is possible for even a single location with the right professional branding techniques and Susie's signature strategies of Visions to Images. Stand out from your competitors and bring your visions to life while watching your sales skyrocket. Your host for this is Susie Liberatore, owner of Visions to Images. All right. Hello, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have Laurie Cramer. She's the Executive Director of Autism Society of Greater Akron. And I am excited. I've been a part of this community for quite some time. Obviously, as we know, Antonio has autism, and I'm super excited to be working with them on some new projects, but also being so involved with the community as a whole. I mean, they're always doing great, wonderful things. So I'm glad to kind of connect and have her on. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your backstory. Tell me how you got started in this field and in this journey.
You know, it really is quite a journey now that I look back on it. My son was diagnosed with autism in 2003. And I'm sorry, yeah, he was diagnosed in 2003. So he was 3 years old. And at the time, and sadly, I think many people still have this story, but you sort of feel like you're dropped off in the middle of nowhere and told good luck, you know. So he's diagnosed with autism. You know, as we know, there's sort of there's no clear treatment. There's no one answer. There's no one path. Good luck, Mom. So I really sought out any kind of services or resources that I could find. And at the time, the only thing in town was the Autism Society of Greater Akron. It was run by all volunteers at the time, all parents of children with autism, which is really the story behind most autism societies. They were founded by parents, and they're founded by parents who were looking for resources, looking for ways to connect. I've often been quoted saying, as I've heard many other parents say, everything I've ever learned is from other parents. And so I volunteered starting in 2005. We worked the phones, we put on workshops, we did all these things in our night as a night job. And in 2009, I became the president of the board. And at that time, we decided to do a strategic plan to really start talking about the fact that as volunteers, we didn't feel like we could serve our community in the way that we wanted to. Also, the incident rate of autism was increasing so quickly at the time. And so when my son was diagnosed, it was 1 in 150, and today it's 1 in 44 children with autism. So just that incident rate alone, we felt like we just couldn't do and serve our community the way we wanted to, and nor could we bring the resources to our community the way we wanted to as volunteers. So we decided we wanted to have staff in place so that we could be more consistent and dive deeper. Mm-hmm. And no, I did not intend to be the first staff person hired, but I'll just make a long story short. The board turned to me and said, "Hey, Laurie, would you consider, quitting your full-time job?" So my background is in public relations. Quit your full-time job and go part-time and, work for us. And needless to say, it was not a part-time job. We had $2,000 in the bank. Oh, wow. We knew the first thing we had to do was hold a fundraiser. So I put on with a fantastic team of volunteers, but the first walk here in Akron. And it's called Step Into Autism. And 1,000 people showed up, and we raised $65,000 that first year. And what it really said was that our community needed that walk, that we wanted to come together, that we wanted to have that solidarity. And so that's something I'm still proud of. I think it's just awesome. One of my favorite things to do is to go to the walk and just see everybody and be together and talk and catch up. And so this year's walk, by the way, is June the 18th in Lock 3, which is where that first walk was held. And it's our 11th year.
That's amazing. I love it. I love that story. It's great to hear that. Congratulations on the growth. That's incredible that you kind of took this little fundraiser and grew it, and now it's ongoing. I can totally relate to everything that you said. When Antonio was diagnosed, gosh, I don't remember what year it was, but it was when he was like 2 or 3. So I want to say 2017-ish. You never know what to do. You never know the resources. You never know the tools. You just kind of figure it out, right? Like you're on Google, you're trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. I call it my Google MD because you're right. I mean, that's
like I had no clue when he got diagnosed. I was like, and then you sit there and you research so much, and then you're like putting them into therapies and stuff, and you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about half the time.
Yeah, it is a different language. And I think as parents, we all speak that language now.
Yes.
And I think we can be kind of cliquey. We don't mean to be, but it is a world that, once you're part of it, I think parents of children with autism are amazing because we're incredibly supportive. I think we're incredibly non-judgmental. I think we're incredibly just supportive of each other to say, how can I help you? Because I've been down that path and it's not a fun one to be on by yourself. So we actually came out with something called the newly diagnosed kit.
Yeah, I think I got one of those a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's in our fifth year now because of that exact reason, because of for me and my colleague here, Lisa Thompson's been with me since for 10 years, and I've been here for 11 years. So the same thing, we both kind of got dropped off in the desert. And we said, we don't want other people to go through that. So that the newly diagnosed kit was our way of having something to give to parents that were newly diagnosed so that they have some sense of where to begin. Like, why should we all be beating our head up against the same wall? So.
No, I agree 100%. And I think, like you said, like the parents are the biggest thing. Other parents, when you start to connect with other parents, you guys are just like amazing and work together. Like I didn't even know about Julie Billard until one of my old friends that was at a different therapy said, oh, Braxton goes there, and I was like, oh, great. Let's try it out and see. So it was like one of those things where we communicate and we help each other and share these ideas. It might not always be right for us, but we can share it with others as well. So it's like parents. Exactly. And the resources and community are so huge. Yeah.
That's still very much, we're very much still driven by that. We're a connector. It's in our mission statement, but we just went through a brand overhaul, as you know, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but it's interesting that we used to call ourselves sort of the hub of information. And so it's interesting to see whenever, you go through a formal branding process, which our national organization did with input from all over the country. Oh, wow. The key word that came out was connector, that we're a connector. And I thought that's true. We connect parents, we connect them to each other, we connect to resources, we connect to professional services. And I thought that's the right word for us. But, it's interesting to go through a process like that and go, oh yeah, it seems so simple, but yet, there it is.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you were kind of talking about is when you have an autistic kid and you're learning so much, you learn so much, but also I've learned more how to have patience. Like you were talking about non-judgmental. My big thing is like patience, because I can't really show as much frustration, because when there's frustration, he gets the frustration too. So it's like, patient. Yeah. And for the longest time when they're not talking, it's like, how do we make them talk? We have to be patient and kind of work with them before we can really just kind of say, okay, they need to talk, right? Like we have to have that patience and that guidance and that understanding. Like that's been the biggest thing. One of his teachers always used to tell us, like, think of it as progress, not perfection, right? They're going to take the steps that they take, and that's going to be that. And you got to just celebrate what you can.
Very good friend of mine who's a little bit ahead of me on this journey. We've been autism moms together for years. But she is the first person to say to me, sometimes it's about accepting like that you've got to change the expectation. So she took her son to the movie when he was young and she's like, oh my gosh, it was a disaster. He didn't sit through it. He got up and walked around. He was too loud. People were mean. She's like, we left. And then one of his therapists takes him to a movie and comes back and says, it was awesome. And she's like, well, what did you do differently? And she said, we were only there for 15 minutes, but he did fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. And so she said that to me. She said, Laurie, find your 15 minutes because that window is a fair window for Philip to learn to go to a movie, build it up over time. But that's a victory. Expecting him to sit through an hour and a half movie is not really fair to him. And I'm like, you're right. But sometimes it just takes someone else
for sure
pointing that out to you to go, good point.
Of course. No, I agree 100%. Yes. Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com. So let's dive in now. Tell me I know you have a lot of great things happening. Tell me a little bit about what you're kind of most excited about with this new rebrand and journey.
Wow, there's so much bundled up in this. The Autism Society, our national organization, was founded in 1965. Locally here, our affiliate was founded in 1987. It's gone through several iterations. I think originally it was I'm trying to remember the original name of the Autism Society was like the National Children's Autistic Society or something like that. But either way, Autism Society, that term society is kind of considered old, So we were really excited about getting the opportunity to, even with not changing our name, but having a more updated logo, an updated brand, a better definition of what we are. We're not a direct service provider. So here locally, you think of like Hattie Larlam or United Disability Services, or, those are the places that are able to accept funding for supporting individuals with disabilities. So for us, our focus, because we're an advocacy organization, and founded by parents and in a grassroots fashion, we don't have a revenue stream. Mm-hmm. So we don't bill Medicaid, we don't bill health insurance. We have to depend on fundraising. So it's very important that we know who we are and what we do, and we define that well, and that we're able to say this is at the heart of what we are. So that was what was really exciting about the new brand is to not just have our perceptions of what we do, but how others perceive what we do, and right. What we do that is different than what direct service providers do, or, other organizations. And so that was really exciting to go through that process. It's also a nationwide network of 70 plus affiliates. And so to find that common brand, that I love the manifesto. If people have time to read the manifesto, it's just really powerful. And it talks about autism, and that everyone, while we're on different journeys, because everyone's an individual, we see you. We see that the autism spectrum is long and wide, and all are welcome in our tent. Right. And the connection is you is all about that you're the connection, parents are the connection, the community is the connection. However you see yourself, we're all in the same tent. It's said much more eloquently than that, but it's just been fun to go through and put it into words.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I love it. And you have tons of things happening though.
We do. So this month is April, which is Autism Awareness Month, now Autism Acceptance Month. Last year, we went through a process of saying, you know what, we need to go from awareness to acceptance. Mm-hmm. And really that's about inclusion. And so we have some fun things happening this month for April, just in celebration of that. But in the bigger picture, we have got some very exciting things happening. And some of those are things we're working with you on. What I'm the most excited about is we have been, since 2017, we've had a program called Autism Friendly, and we have worked with a number of sectors locally here. We've trained prosecutors, first responders, librarians or library staff, park services in working with individuals with autism and other developmental disabilities in their own settings. And so if I go to the park, what can I expect? And what are the accommodations? And, will I be able to participate in the programming as a family or a person with autism? So that for the past several years now has been a broad focus in that training. Well, the big enchilada, if you will, that we worked with was Cleveland Clinic Akron General, mm-hmm. in training medical staff. So we've kind of become a little bit of a niche on that. Yeah. And also, there's a tremendous demand for this training. And so we are taking that training and we're scaling it and making it something that we can engage in medical staff and hospitals, doctors' offices, anything like that outside of Akron. So we're working on scaling that. And that's a lot of what we're working with you on. So I'm very excited about that. The other big exciting thing is we have a fantastic water safety program that we have been doing also since 2017. We've really, again, kind of built a niche in this and received a state grant this past year to take that statewide. So to help other, YMCAs, like we have a local partnership with our YMCA, but a YMCA, for example, learn how we do this and scale it up and make sure that other places can offer a water safety program. Drowning is a leading cause of death for children with autism and one of the leading causes for adults. That's a critical need in our community and other communities is that water safety program. So there's lots of things I'm excited about, but those two in particular are exciting because it's scaling them beyond right here in our backyard, but trying to take those other places because they have been so successful and they're so needed.
Yeah, I was going to say they're absolutely 100% needed. It's needed. I mean, there's been so many times where I'm like, I want resources and tools beyond the basics, right? Like there's just so much that we need, and we need that community, and we need people to understand. Like I remember, gosh, when Antonio was way younger, we would go to a story time, and it was like, you know how it is. They're stimming, they're not listening, they're not sitting. And you're like, oh my gosh, people are going to think crazy things and all this stuff. Like, you're just like, I don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to deal with this. And we end up leaving. Right. So it's times like that where it's so important for other people to be able to connect and get on their level so that they can enjoy those things, because it's so tough. We as parents want them to enjoy it, and they want to enjoy it, but there's that missing gap. So it's so important.
I agree with you. And I've also always said, if you are being accommodating to the child who needs a little bit of extra support, my guess is all the other kids benefit from that as well. So a story time is a good example. Think about that. If you make it more visual, if you make it more interactive, if you're able to give that positive reinforcement, Antonio, I love the way that you're sitting here and listening to my story today. If you know those cues, think about how all the other kids are going to be like, oh, I want to sit up really nicely and listen to the story too. Everyone benefits from that kind of thing. And I say that over and over again. I say, I guarantee you're not just accommodating one person. All boats rise together on that one. And it's been demonstrated over and over again.
I love that, though. I love that you brought that up, because that's so true. Yeah, I love it. All right. So my last question for you is, if you could give any advice, I mean, it can be any advice, but if you want to talk about autism, what advice would you give somebody, if they're just starting off, getting diagnosed, anything to that effect?
Wow.
I know, it's a tough one.
That's a big one. For me, there was a lot of grief that went with it. And I think I would even say, here I am 19 years later, really coming to terms with that. I think if I could give some advice, it is really part of this is that in our society, I don't know that having a child with a disability, that anybody has ever really dug down into the grief of that, beyond like, we know there's grief, we know that there's fear for them. And when I talk about grief, it's really fear. I'm afraid for him. I'm afraid what his life looks like. And my son has severe autism. So helping us to navigate that, I think if I could give advice, it would be to learn more about that so that you can identify and keep your own mental health in check while you go through this journey. Because I don't think I do believe in you. And I used to hate this when people say, Laurie, you got to put your mask on first. But I'm like, I don't have time to put my mask on first. I am totally focused on him. And what do I do to support him and get him the therapy he needs? And there's truth to that we have to be healthy to have a healthy family. And so whatever you can do to remember that self-care, and that includes advocating for yourself, telling your doctor, my doctor, why do you have high blood pressure? What's up with you? Let me just tell you a little bit about my life. It's important that the people that are around us know what's happening in our lives. And it's hard for us to ask for help. It's hard for us to advocate for ourselves. We're amazing advocates for our children, for our family. We forget to advocate for ourselves. I think if I could give some advice as an older mom, I would say, remember to advocate for yourself too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely agree with that, especially when they're younger and stuff. Like, you feel like you just need to be there. And being a part of Antonio's life, like, I feel like, okay, yeah, we got to do all these things, but what does Susie want? Like, because I'm always like, okay, we have to make sure we do things for Antonio. We have to, all these things, homework, everything just kind of goes up. And that's why, like, sometimes I'll just take quiet time at the end of the day and just turn everything off and just really focus and take that mental break that I might need. I mean, there's tons of things to do it, but you have to take care of it. And I mean, for the longest time, like, I think you hit it. Like, there's grief. There's a grieving process. You're in denial. You go through all of those stages. When he was first diagnosed, I was like in denial, and I was having panic attacks, having all of these feelings. And I was like, no, he's not that. He's fine. Like,
sure.
And then you're like, okay, well, now I have to face reality. So there is all of these stages that we go through, and it's okay. And that's why having this community is so important. Like you said, you have to let the people know and ask for help. If you need a sitter for 5 hours, get one. If you need it for 2 hours, right?
Yes. Take a break. Yeah. It's okay to take that break. I have a niece who has Down syndrome, and my sister said to me, and my niece is probably 5 years older than my son, Philip. And my sister said to me, This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
And you're right. You just go into panic mode. I've got to get ABA at 60 hours a week. And how are we going to pay for that? And he's got to have speech therapy. And he's got to have PT and OT, and you're just in a death spiral. How can you, but I agree. That's a great idea. I think the mindfulness at the end of the day to just take it down a few notches, whatever it is that helps you to relax in a healthy way to say, okay, I need to regroup for myself too, because I can be stronger for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was great to chat with you. I'm excited about all the growth and all of the stuff happening, as you know. And we'll be sharing all of that great stuff as it comes out.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed talking with you today, Susie, and I'm loving the work we're doing together.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now, all of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.